Welcome back to Mind Your Biz. My name is Seth, and in today's privacy developer chat, I have a new challenger. That's right. We have new entrants into the space. You thought that we were all done finding people who are interested and obsessed with privacy as I am? No. We're just getting started. Welcome to the show, ATTR team.
Thank you for having us, Seth. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, no, and the pleasure's all mine. Love meeting new people who have that privacy focus, who are ideologically driven to help preserve people's financial privacy. I've realized that you've chosen to remain anonymous for our interview, and I respect that. Is there anything you can tell the audience about maybe background, maybe some previous wins, either in the blockchain space or in the development space? Essentially, credential yourselves. Why would people want a solution like ATTR from you, from your team?
So we've been in the space as, I guess, friends and colleagues for, I'd say, a decade now. We haven't all been building for a decade. I'd say we've been building for about 5 to 7 years in different arenas. Some of us were in the robotics space, some were in VR. Not everyone was in blockchain. Some were building on Solidity back in the early Ethereum days. The developer team and the technical advisors are actually Mimetic Block LLC. They're fully doxed. They have products under their name as well. They're actually working on a product called Art by City on Arweave right now. So they're fully integrated in the perma-web space and are fully capable in handling private and public keys, I'd say. Outside of that, we have a robust, I guess, marketing team. And maybe the developer can speak a little bit more about the rest of the team as well.
Yes, certainly. Hi, Seth. It is a pleasure to be here. And so, yes, I'm one of the core developers of ATTR. And I suppose one of the newer members when it comes to the DeFi space, having worked in traditional software briefly before finding my love and focus within DeFi. And I really came in for, I think we'll discuss this soon after, for the very interesting challenge we had of designing our runway around a smart contract without needing to rely on VCs. And I think all of our advisors have been in the space, including advisors from projects such as DApp Builder, DAO Builder. They have worked in projects since 2017. We have very much had the benefit of the hindsight to see how the space has developed over the past few years and then hopefully really make an impact now.
Phenomenal. Well, it's so great to hear that there's that wealth of knowledge across all sides of the team. And as you mentioned, there's parts of the team that are fully doxed with Mimetic Block LLC. So it's not like everybody is entirely coming from an anonymous avatar standpoint. But I mean, working in the privacy space and being a privacy advocate, I get it. A lot of people think that in 2023, right, moving forward, there's no room left for anonymous founders or anonymous contributors. And to that, I say, you're wrong. You have to be okay with being wrong. If you think that, you got to be okay with just being wrong. There's absolutely a need for some of your contributors to be anonymous. So I'm glad that you found a healthy balance between those two across the team. And you mentioned robotics. You mentioned VR, AR. These are highly technical, highly precise pursuits. You can't. There's not a whole lot of room for massive error, I think, in some of those building spaces. Very interesting, non-traditional for I think blockchain developers now in 2023. But I mean, what is a traditional background for a blockchain developer anymore, right?
I think we saw it as always trying to be at the cusp of what technology offers, blockchain being one of them back in 2012, 14. And one of the reasons why we kind of went back to the basics of Tor was we feel like blockchain was built for Tor, was built for transactions on Tor pretty much. That's how Bitcoin became popular. That's how Bitcoin got its praise. We all know the Silk Road stories. We wouldn't be here without Tor. And for some reason, the blockchain took off and Tor kind of fell in the wasteland. And we want to see what we can do to empower that again. We also, there was a quote that I heard that kind of stuck with the team where it's, you have to exercise your rights before you lose them. So anonymity and pseudonymity, or whatever you can use, you should use. Your right is to be private. Your right is to be secure and anonymous. That is your right, and you should exercise it regardless of the times and where you think they're going. I think people forget that they have that right to privacy. And part of that is just education and maybe just spreading the wealth, much like you're doing. Thank you, Seth.
Yeah. No, it's my pleasure. This is a public service. I should ask before we jump any deeper into the content. To set up this interview, did I ask you for a bounty or did you offer one?
No.
Okay, great. I like having that public accountability for me just doing this as a public service, and
yes,
for you
this
just
is a public service. We'll attest
Yeah.
to that. Yes, of course. Thank you, Seth. Yes.
Great. Yeah. It's important for me to also to signal to other privacy focused developers that they have a home here and an open mic here. Right. So if anybody's actually building, the signal needs to be amplified.
It's a welcoming space. Anyone else that wants to promote their project about anonymity or just speak with Seth, please reach out. Wonderful person to speak to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. But to keep the main thing, this is your time. ATTR, I've got the main site up just on screen right now. You shared with me also a white paper or a technical document that describes a little bit more in depth the cryptography and the pipeline for helping to preserve anonymity on the networks that you serve. But from a bird's eye view, right, a high level overview, what does ATTR do? How does it preserve anonymity? And how does it address the problems with privacy that people face?
So we'd like to reward recognition rewards for advocates in the space, much like yourself or relay operators that are running the relays now. Tor usually suffers from a lack of just the strength in the infrastructure and how easy it is for one party to spin up maybe 1,000 relays and have 15% of the network already. There has been a lot of problems with people trying to attack the network to try to de-anonymize the actual users. So we just want to see more people actively supporting the network, and the way that we see that happening is through some kind of recognition reward or through some kind of incentive. Yes, we love the altruistic nature of Tor. We love that all of it is open source. It's a very, donating community in that way, that everyone's donating their time. They're all doing this for free. Not everyone can get to that advocate level in their life, right? Like you need to have certain things already taken care of for you to then have the free time or even resources to help someone else. And if you don't have that space in your life, then you just can't do it. So we want to see if we can incentivize that little bit of effort to maybe just run a relay, speak to someone else about why anonymity is important, maybe run a podcast like you do or YouTube videos, just pretty much open kind of like a pipeline from the crypto space into the anonymity space and give the resources needed for it to explode like the blockchain did.
Awesome. Yeah. I know there was a nonprofit that I interviewed. It's been a couple of years now, and they were not able to sustain a similar mission of being able to get more Tor nodes spun up. And they had a very interesting system. I don't want to go too in depth there, because the point is they made an effort that just was not sustainable for some reason. But it sounds like you creating an incentive for people to start contributing to Tor infrastructure, that makes a lot of sense. And there are so many other anonymity mixed nets, right? I won't name names, but there are some mixed nets there that are sort of propped up as alternatives to Tor, that they have token rewards, they have other incentives in place. And nobody batted an eye when they offered that. So, I mean, why not go back to where there's strength in the Tor network, like you're saying, and offer an incentive layer on top of it? Like, it seems like the best of both worlds. And I'm kind of shocked that there hasn't been anything quite like it before.
There has been. There have been multiple attempts before. So we looked at it. The reason why I said recognition rewards outside of incentive rewards is the incentive rewards was what failed. Incentivizing traffic to go through your relay, or maybe paying relays depending on how much bandwidth they donate, starts highlighting that relay for attack. So you don't want to do that. So that's why we want to recognize all of the relays across the network that are providing significant, uptime, or useful uptime, as we like to call it. So let's say your relay provides 80% uptime for the month. you can receive your recognition rewards, and it's equal across the board, whether it's 90%, 80%, regardless of how much bandwidth you're providing. So it doesn't really highlight any relay, but it rewards all relays that want to register with our protocol. The next kind of issue that we start running into is now we need to be able to make sure they're not spoofing relays, make sure there's no double registering of relays. So our protocol is coming up with a unique hash that can be signed by both the Ethereum private keys and the Tor private keys, because the private keys on Tor are pretty much the same as Near or Solana keys, if you will. And the Ethereum keys are on a different elliptical curve. So we need a hash that can be signed by both so that they can't be spoofed, so that we can just have a protocol that recognizes messages from both, I guess, ecosystems, if you will.
Got it. Okay, that's great. Yeah, I'm not. So I apologize. My ignorance, my lack of familiarity with the space clearly doesn't mean that it hasn't been done before. But you mentioned there have been attempts at incentivizing some of the Tor infrastructure before, and that the problem, the way that I'm summarizing that what you said, the problem is that highlighting the participation in the wrong way leads to further abuse, leads to serious issues with abuse.
So highlighting the powerful or the quote unquote star tier or premium tier relays highlights them for attack, right? So you're pointing out the best relays on the network, and then those relays start getting attacked, so they get taken down, so the whole ecosystem suffers. So to avoid pointing out the really powerful ones, if you reward all above average, it doesn't really highlight anyone. It's kind of like passing the whole class. There is no grade system. The whole class passes, right? If we all did well, the ecosystem survived, it got better, we all pass, as long as the relays aren't malicious. And this is another problem that we're trying to solve as well.
Got it. I mean, it sounds like, pardon the gross generalization, but it sounds an awful lot like a consensus model of proof of useful work.
Yes, which Tor has built in as well. So we're trying to see how we can use their consensus model with our protocol as well.
Awesome. That's great. This should be a completely uncontroversial I think this should be a completely uncontroversial project for most people to just say, okay, well, we do need proof of utility. We do need proof. I mean, especially when talking about internet infrastructure, we do need proof of utility as opposed to a bunch of whatever. I mean, rewind 5 years, a bunch of masternodes doing nothing, or a bunch of other validator nodes that are whatever, just only talking to each other and creating fake volume on smart contract networks, right? Like we've had so much, pardon the expression, but so much circle jerking in the crypto space.
Well, what everyone's trying to do is kind of silo the users into their experience or their platform or their ecosystem, where we have a network that needs help and can be addressed already. I don't understand why it has to be directed into a certain, quote unquote silo of an experience. So and the second front to the recognition rewards is getting away from this whole Tor is the dark web or Tor is the bad place internet. Like that's not true. Kind of like what how crypto started, where it's only for bad people, crypto's only to do bad things with. It's not true. It's just not true. And I think getting away from that that understanding of what Tor is primary, and then making sure that the network can actually support all the new users is secondary to it as well.
Yeah, 100%. So in celebration of Tor, I'm gonna switch from my Fed boy DEA FBI hat over to my Navy hat. Here we go. So just a little nod to the fact that Tor came from naval research funding, right? So no, Tor is not for bad guys. Tor was made by the good guys, for the good guys, and for everyone. So there you go. It's a little history lesson there for people who are trying to mischaracterize Tor as only being for the dark web and for nefarious purposes. So yeah, it's funny. A little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, but you got to dig deeper. So that's great. Totally agree with that. It should be uncontroversial that there's a desire to reward that, and as you said, that it is kind of a pass-fail grade, that it is for a certain class of contributor that's just functioning and actively contributing to the Tor network. Talk to me a little bit about the tokenomics of the proposed reward system, how it's administered, what network it's paid out on. And I apologize for for us approaching this interview like an Eli 5. But I think it'll be for the audience's benefit too, to just hear it from you. How do rewards work?
Of course.
Yeah, I'll pass it over to the rewards dev.
Yes, please. And I mean, I completely agree. This should be an Eli 5, so we're here to answer any questions, no matter how basic or introductory. So to put it very simply, the rewards are ERC20, or at least they will start as ERC20 tokens, which currently exist on the Ethereum blockchain. And of course, people can speculate on those tokens, but primarily 10% of that token supply is vested and dedicated towards these relay rewards. So a big part of the protocol and what we're building currently is the dashboard and protocol for relays to register an ETH wallet, essentially, to receive these rewards for recognition for contributing to Tor. So in terms of tokenomics, in terms of supply, we're sort of covered for the first 2 years by this 10%, which continually vests itself and will be accumulated and distributed at a set frequency. And thinking to the long term, maybe we'll get to this a bit later, we are already doing early stage research into potential inflows of the ATTOR token back into the protocol or an endowment, from which it can then be paid out in perpetuity from there. So you have the ATTOR being rewarded to these relays for contributing, but there's also reasons to hold and acquire ATTOR from governance, simply acquiring our hardware, which we'll get to as well, and later on some what we call ATTOR hidden services. So some almost utilities that benefit from our products, which can recognize transactions or messages on Tor and can to allow you to almost build Web3 applications on Tor. So it's, in simple terms, it starts off as smart contract tokens being vested and will end in something a little bit more permanent in the long term.
Got it. Okay. And you mentioned also, with that, as far as there being a tokenomic system where you have the inflows that go back to the foundation, it sounds like you're starting with a fixed supply as the premise for your tokenomics.
Yes, it is. It is a fixed supply of 100 million tokens.
Great. And there's no plan for inflation at this point then?
I suppose the circulating supply is strictly inflationary. So the circulating supply currently is 63 million, and that will increase over time over those 2 years. So it depends how you look at it.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, during the vesting period, then there will be inflation, but at the end of that vesting schedule, there is a cliff for inflation.
Exactly.
And got it. Okay. That makes sense. I think a lot of people agree, as a tokenomic design, agree with there being fixed supplies. I know that in other ecosystems, Ethereum itself, there is no there's no plan for for ceasing inflation per block, right? Or issuance per block, and then same with Monero too. I know there are a few ecosystems where there's a design for ongoing coin emission, and it hasn't seemed to affect their price negatively. But I mean, I'm not an economist. I don't know I can't imagine how to architect these systems and know that they're sound. So the fact that you have a plan and that it sounds like you're being sensitive, right, to the input of the rest of your team and trying to refine that plan as you go. Great, you have a plan. That's I guess that's all there is to. That's all you can start with. Yeah, some plan. It sounds well thought out though, and it sounds like it's kind of based in some of the experience of the team in doing tech startups, I guess.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Great. Okay, that makes sense. At least, as a starting point, it makes a lot of sense. Let's talk a little bit about so far some of the challenges you've had to face and what you would consider wins on your roadmap to date. What have you dealt with, and how has the team overcome it?
So I guess the wins to date have been being able to showcase how easy it is to run a relay at ETH Denver. That was really fun because just walked around with a relay in our pocket, literally. It was wireless. It was a Raspberry Pi. And we just walked around and said, hey, you can run a relay like this and get rewarded for it. And if you have enough bandwidth and maybe, I don't know, $3 of electricity per month, because it doesn't really run on much, you can support, anonymity online and support the Tor network. And a lot of people found it really cool. A lot of people just, came up and asked questions. Oh, what is that? Or what do you got there? And it was really interesting to just get the word out, show people that we actually exist. It was within the first month of launch, so it was a lot of excitement. Got to meet a lot of cool people and listen to a lot of amazing cypherpunks from back in the 70s and 80s and where they are now, and us carrying the torch now, which is really cool. But I think the other wins would be slowly developing the protocol out now, getting dashboard ready for at least front-end development. The API is being built out. I mean, it's really hard to see anything from the front end when we're doing a lot of back-end work. It's like, here's a box on the front end, but there's a lot of stuff in the back end, I promise. So it's like, that's all being built out. We're building that out in the open for anyone that wants to see our GitHub. As you mentioned, we released the white paper, which is a living document, and we're constantly working on. And the LLC was registered. So the company actually has an LLC now. The collective is excited to be able to now have a company that we can share with everyone and not feel so anonymous. And I think that just the community that we've gathered is really been amazing. I mean, the response that we've gotten has really been the greatest win, I think. The community is great. Yeah, they're making their own videos already. They're contributing with just helping each other out. They're all ready to run relays. And I think just this motivation and energy is going to keep us going for at least, 5 years from now. So we're really excited to get started. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like the wins also. I'm kind of sad that I missed you at ETH Denver, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say you didn't have a functioning demo, because, man, on the ground, there was no bandwidth anywhere on mobile data or on Wi-Fi at ETH Denver.
I had mine functioning. Yeah, I had mine functioning because I had my own. I had my own hotspot, and then if you were able to see, some of the team members were actually running a hotspot called "Hello Anon, welcome to ATTR," and that's a hotspot you could have used, and it would have hidden your IP as well. So no one would know that you were Seth at ETH Denver, but ETH Denver knows.
Well, there you go. Yeah, the more you know, because like a pleb, I tried running my own hotspot, but I was on T-Mobile, so I think it was more a T-Mobile failure in the area.
Okay.
Because man, the closest cell tower to the main exhibits floor at ETH Denver was just
forget it. You had to be either in the community area upstairs or downstairs in like the dev build space. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
That was much better.
The livestock area. Yeah.
Yeah. That was exactly. It smelled like horses. But that's where the internet was much better. That's where we were able to sit down at a table, a couple of people that were actually there with other laptops, because it wasn't the main hall people that were really interested in seeing the relay. It was mostly the devs or the community area upstairs, where you got to kind of sit down, meet others that are building in the space or getting ready for their talks. But yeah, it was much better service upstairs and in the build area.
That is awesome. I'm so glad you had a working demo there. I know a lot of other groups just didn't. They had to resort to their other Marcom, the pre-recorded videos and stuff. But I'm bummed I didn't get to meet you in person there. I did do some interviews in the podcasting area it was mostly with ZK protocols at that time that I was lining up the interviews. So, I just wasn't aware that you were there. I mean, huge trade show though. And it sounds like the IRL event really helped to validate what you were doing.
Yes,
in terms
definitely did.
Yeah. That's
and
great.
Being able to actually, meet Roger in person was wonderful as well. I don't know if you got to meet
him. Roger, no.
The co-founder, president of Tor. He gave anonymity speech also.
No,
Saturday. It was a lot of anonymity speakers that night. It was great.
I did miss that. It's kind of funny because I didn't speak to Roger, the co-founder of Tor. I spoke to Tor, the founder of Secret Network on IBC. But interesting first name for a guy who works in privacy. But yeah, I mean, the nice thing about IRL events also is that you have to be selective about how you're going to spend the time. So it sounds like it was really productive for your team. Let's talk about the future roadmap for you right now. Things that are coming up. I've got on screen just below the roadmap, what are some dates or some things? Maybe not dates. Don't want to hold you to an unrealistic expectation.
So with dates, we probably wouldn't be able to say exactly when. But the first things that are going to be released are the dashboard where you'll be able to register your relays. You'll be able to add relays to like an account that you register with your, let's say, MetaMask wallet or any ETH wallet that you may want to use. You won't have to use any username or nickname or anything if you don't want to. Everything will be kind of up to you how much you want to share with the dashboard. Once the dashboard is up, we'll start inviting, I guess, closed beta testers to help us test the dashboard, make sure that we're not spoofing any relays, make sure the relays are actually being registered, make sure that the parameters that we're looking at are actually registered properly, and slowly move into rewarding. While that's happening, we're going to continue our community outreach program that we've been kind of paying out to our community for producing any videos that they want to produce on anonymity. We've been reaching out to any relay associations that we can donate to that are currently running relays for Tor already. And we're looking at prototyping our first relays for non-technical users, because there's a lot of people that want to run relays, but they just don't know how to, properly configure it, properly download, the image files onto a SD card or put it into whatever it may be. So we're trying to first share the knowledge of like, hey, if you have an old laptop or you have something that you don't use, this is how you can do it. And then if you don't have the technical know-how, we'll provide you with the hardware. You'll just pay with tokens and then receive the hardware to then receive rewards for running it.
That's awesome. Are you looking at with that offering? Are you looking at there being some kind of an online configurator that the purchaser can use, so that it basically it literally comes to them plug and play?
Yeah, we're hoping that it comes to them plug and play, where it like leads them through a prompt system that like guides them through, connecting to their network. How much bandwidth do they want to pass through the relay? How often do they want it to refresh? And that'll probably be it. And then from there, they'll get like a key that they can then register on the dashboard.
Awesome. I'm wondering what is the likelihood of this solution being offered as a one-click install on something like DApp Node or Umbrel or some of the other full node OS solutions that are out there?
I'm sure that it can be done. All that really is needed is the space to be able to run the relay on the disk and being able to configure the relay properly. So I don't see why not.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I was just so I just did an interview not that long ago with the Samurai Wallet and Ronin Dojo team, and I mean I can imagine that if there's any compute overhead available, right? Any like spare cycles available on the full nodes that run, say, like a Ronin Dojo, even though you're operating in more of the Ethereum centric ecosystem for your rewards and such, they've got an interest in there being a robust Tor network. Right?
Yes.
So,
but we're kind of chain agnostic in that way that we, yes, we started in the Ethereum space, but we want to be able to allow others eventually to bring their key pairs and join the dashboard as well. Obviously, it's going to be way down the roadmap. We want to be able to get the prototypes out first. So right now we're just concentrating on one chain at a time, make sure everything's working properly, take the steps necessary to make sure that we're not harming the ecosystem by what we're introducing, because we won't know until we try.
Sure.
And then take it from there.
Sure. Okay. Well, then maybe a more closely aligned ecosystem to build in would be as a DApp node, one-click install, because you've got people there running Geth and Prism. So for them to be able to run Tor, right, alongside it, and then maybe even just for that, maybe for whatever they're running their own private RPC there or custom RPC. Maybe it is not too difficult for them to just decide to want to participate in what you're doing.
Exactly. Kind of like a toggle, like participate or don't participate. Yep. Yeah.
And then even have the key pairs that they're going to sign with or whatever right there on that device. Maybe. I don't know. Sounds like an extremely promising system that you're building. We're a bit past the time that I said we would go. So thank you for being flexible. As far as people being able to contribute or interact meaningfully with the team, what's the best way to contact the ATTR team and join the community, maybe help build, or just contribute in some way?
You're welcome to follow along and comment in GitHub on any of the repos. Welcome to fork it, copy it, play with the code. On the website, we have all of our social channels there as well. So if any of those social channels are more convenient to you, those are available.
Okay,
and
great.
You can also
our
email
official
us.
Telegram channel is definitely a good start. We actually sort of moderate 2 Telegram channels, with the official one being specifically geared towards technical discussion, and that is the best place to find the teams here. We often do respond to technical questions there, incorporate even feedback and how we present things around education. So it is very much a two-way street, and we've been amazed at the community response so far. It really is a community that makes the movement.
Awesome. Okay, so it sounds like Telegram is kind of the community platform of choice, and then GitHub also.
Telegram and Discord as well. Our Discord community is pretty good.
Okay, got it. I don't see the public link here on the website, but I guess where should people look for a link to your Discord?
It's on the Twitter site as well. I think it's just because we're running an invite contest right now. We're trying to give our community the chance and not take the credit from our website.
That's super cool. Okay, no, I do see that on the Twitter page, but amazing. That's great that you're also what is measured typically improves. So good for you in giving them that fighting chance. That definitely shows good faith in community building as well. So appreciate you being that way about it. Plenty of teams that are trying to front run their communities and showing how little they need them. Also, you mentioned like your first response was to comment on GitHub issues and just be active there as well. Sounds like that's a big call from the community right now, is contributing.
I just think that there are a lot of developers that have asked us already where they can find code to play with. It's just not really ready to play with yet. But they can follow along, and anytime that they want to jump in, I mean, they're more than welcome to. Okay,
great. And is there any other place that people should contact you that hasn't been mentioned already? Or if there was one favor that you had to ask the audience, what would it be? How can they what's the most urgent need, or how can they best support you?
They need to exercise their right to privacy. That's all we require. Everything else will come along, I think.
Awesome. Well, on that, we totally agree. And with that, audience, I'll say goodbye. This has been the episode. ATTR team, ATTR Dev, thank you for joining us. And hopefully we have another one soon.
Thanks, Seth.